Here are your fast facts on the date of the book of Colossians. I want to make an inductive argument here for the date AD 62 that many scholars accept for the book of Colossians. So let's begin by connecting some dots. Notice how Ephesians and Colossians share a verbatim parallel in how they speak about a man named Tychicus. We see that in Colossians 4, 7 through 8 and Ephesians 6, 21 to 22. Then notice how the book of Philemon and the book of Colossians talk about the role of Onesimus the slave in accompanying the letters in question. Both seem to share the same role for Onesimus as he accompanies those letters to their recipients. Then notice how Philippians shares with Colossians the presence of Timothy. We see that in Colossians 1:1 and Philippians 1:1. It also shares with Ephesians an expectation of unhindered witness while he's in prison, and with the book of Philemon an expectation of impending release from prison. So the first fact that we're going to deduce here from those threads is that all four books, Colossians, Ephesians, Philippians, and Philemon, were all written close together and during the same imprisonment. So that leads to a question: which imprisonment? See, Paul had a penchant for ending up in prison, so let's connect some more dots and see if we can determine where Paul was in prison when he wrote these books. Let's start with the book of Philemon. This is an interesting one. Where would a runaway slave like Onesimus choose to hide? The typical candidates for the imprisonment in question for the book of Colossians are Caesarea, Ephesus, Rome. So for a runaway slave to travel to the remote province of Palestine to Caesarea seems unlikely, to say the least. Then for Onesimus to travel only down the street to Ephesus seems equally unlikely. That would probably be the first place Philemon would have looked. But for the runaway slave to seek out the metropolis of Rome, where he could blend in, find community and companions, well, that seems far more likely. From there, let's connect another thread. We look at the kind of imprisonment described, especially in the books of Ephesians and Colossians. The unhindered witness and impending release well describe the Roman imprisonment that we see recorded in Acts 28. Then, let's look at the characters involved in these letters. In Philippians 1:13, we encounter the palace guard. In chapter 4, verse 22, we encounter the emperor's household. In Colossians 4:10, there's a character named Aristarchus, who we know from Acts 27 accompanied Paul on the trip from Caesarea to Rome. And Colossians now records that Aristarchus is imprisoned alongside him, which seems to work well for a Roman imprisonment. Then Luke, who is with Paul at the end of Acts, in Acts 28, 14 to 16, is also with Paul as he writes the book of Colossians. We see that in chapter 4, verse 14. So all this information, the runaway slave, the kind of imprisonment that Paul was experiencing, and the characters that are in these letters lead us to a second fact, and that is that all four letters were written during Paul's Roman imprisonment, as recorded in the book of Acts at the very end. And then our final fact from there follows quickly thereafter. Luke's painstakingly detailed descriptions in the book of Acts allow us to date the Roman imprisonment of Acts 28 quite precisely to AD 62. So our final conclusion is that the book of Colossians was written in or around AD 62. And those are your fast facts on the date of the book of Colossians.